Hey everyone, welcome to this week's car review. I've been really looking forward to this particular car review because I've been reading so many great things about this particular model. What am I talking about? I'm talking about the new Mercedes C-Class, and in particular this is a C300 4MATIC. You know, the C-Class is a very important model range for Mercedes. It's their top selling model range by a significant margin. And you might say to me, well, Nick, of course, it's one of the more affordable ranges within the Mercedes group. And I said, well, yes, I'm sure that's part of it, but consider this. The CLA is a much cheaper model than the C-Class, and yet the C-Class outsells the CLAs by a factor of 3 or 4 to 1. And so it's more than just price point that makes the C-Class so popular. So what is this car? As I said before, it is a C-Class. It is the C300. This particular one is a 4MATIC. It comes with a 4-cylinder, 2-litre turbocharged intercooled engine producing 240 horsepower and 270 foot-pounds of torque, or pounds-feet of torque. It can do 0 to 60 miles an hour in about 6.2 seconds. It weighs about 3,400 pounds, so it's not that heavy. And it's got a pretty decent fuel economy rating of 24 city and 31 highway, so that's pretty decent. But one of the things I love the most about this car, and I noticed this when I first got in, I'll stop here and I'll show you. When you first get in the car and you put your belt on, hang on, car going past me. Go past me. When you put your belt on, you slide it in, put it on, gives you a little hug. So if you're a creep like me and no one wants to hug you, you can just get in your C-Class and it will give you a hug. Make you feel better the whole day. I think Mercedes, more than any other brand, has people that are what we would call brand conscious buying their products. And within any luxury brand, there's always a broad cross-section of people that buy a particular brand. And you know, a lot of them are people like you and me who are interested in the engineering and the performance and the handling and just, you know, the joy of driving these vehicles. But there's also people that buy cars or luxury cars because they are a fashion statement or because they want to be seen in a certain brand. And I think Mercedes, more than any other car brand, has a lot of these people. And I know some people like that. And you know, if I pull up somewhere here where it's safe to stop, I want to talk a little bit more about that. So hang on just 1 second, I'll pull up here where there's going to be no one getting in my way. Okay, so I'm just going to stop just here where it's safe and talk to you a little bit about what I mean by people that are brand conscious. Now I happen to have three close friends, in fact one of them is an ex-girlfriend of mine, that have recently brought this new model C-Class. Not this exact model because the C300 is really just a North America model. In other markets, they've got the C250 or the C200 as the lower end C-Class. So that's what they've also purchased. So three friends, and I wrote them all the same email or the same questions, and got back some answers which I thought were pretty interesting. So the first question that I sent my three friends that bought the new C-Class was, did you consider any other brands such as Audi or BMW? And the first one came back going, only knuckle draggers drive BMWs, Nick. The second one came back, you know nothing, Jon Snow. Mercedes-Benz is the only brand. And the third person, who's in New Zealand, wrote, I quite like the Audis, but I prefer the look of the C-Class. So fair enough. But this is the question I really wanted them to answer. Now, keep in mind that one of these friends is in California, one's in the UK, and one's in New Zealand. So it's a fairly broad range. It's someone from a different country. But they all answered much the same. Well, they gave different answers. The answers actually all meant the same to me. The question was, why did you get a C-Class? Did you consider a CLA, or in the case of the people that are outside the US, an A or B class? And the first one answered, A B class, a CLA, I'm not a pleb. And what that girl's from the UK, and what a pleb is in the UK is someone that's a commoner or of a lower class. And so she considers a B class or a CLA to be a lesser model than a C class, not a real Mercedes, I guess. The next one answered a CLA. I would not be seen dead in one of those. And the third one from New Zealand said, what? A CLA is not a real Mercedes, Nick. And so they really all answered the same. And what their answer meant to me was that a C class, to a lot of people, and particularly people that are model conscious, is the entry level to Mercedes-Benz. It's the first real Mercedes-Benz. There are lower and cheaper models, but people that are brand conscious don't consider those to be a real Mercedes-Benz, whereas the C class is a real Mercedes-Benz. So I find that very interesting, and I think that's why the C class sells so well. It's because it's a real Mercedes-Benz to a lot of people. Anyway, so what are we going to do in this review today? I'm going to do much the same things. We're going to take it for a drive, and then we're going to take a look around the outside, and we're going to take a look on the inside. I'm going to spend a little bit more time on the inside of this car than I would normally do, because I really am impressed with the quality of what they've done with this new C class. I think the C class is always a popular model, but I think this is going to be a real winner for Mercedes, and this is really taking it to the other German cars. Mercedes have had hits and misses in the past, and I've never really been a big Mercedes fan myself, because I've always preferred the sportiness of a BMW or the interior quality of an Audi, but this is the first time that I've really been truly impressed with the C class, and I think these are going to sell very well and perhaps outsell their rivals, because in a lot of ways this new C class is better than its rivals. So anyway, let's get on with the driving, and I really hope you guys enjoy this review. It's going to be a little longer than normal, so feel free to jump to the sections below in the description if you just want to skip to my conclusions or skip to certain parts of the review. Anyway, on with it. Thanks everyone. Okay, first off, we're going to take a quick spin on the highway here. This is a friend's car, and it's brand new, so I'm not going to thrash on it too much out of respect for him and his lovely car. But I am going to open it up briefly as we get on the highway, and then I wanted to talk about the agility control and what that does, and also how I'm finding driving this car. So here we go. I jump on the highway here. And I'm going to move the agility control up to sport mode for more sporting gear changes. And hopefully we've got some clear highway. This is 95, it's always got something wrong with it. No, it's pretty clear. Okay, so here we go. Put my foot down. So as you can see, for a 2-litre 4-cylinder turbo, 240 horsepower, it's got some get up and go. I mean, it's a pretty light car, and so, while this is the lower down engine, it's still got enough power to get you motivated. What I wanted to do quickly is go over this agility control. Now, this car doesn't have the Airmatic suspension option, which is about $1,100, $1,200. So really what the agility control does, and if I quickly flip through it here, it starts with economy mode, which obviously gives you economy gear changes and economy use of the air conditioning, and turns on the automatic stop-start of the engine. And then it goes up to comfort mode, which gives a little more throttle response and a little less gear up changes, I guess. And then into sport mode, and you'll notice when I flick from economy mode, when it's in economy mode, the gears automatically jump straight to 7th gear as soon as it can, whereas here I am cruising at 60 miles an hour. If I go into sport mode, the gears immediately drop down 1, and I can feel an eagerness in the throttle and an eagerness in the gearbox to drop down. But then if I drop back, it'll drop back into 6th gear again. And now if I move it up to Sport Plus, see, immediately drops down another gear. So it sticks into the sort of the fifth and fourth gear when it's in Sport Plus a lot more, and really that's what the agility mode's doing. Is it's really changing the throttle response and the way the gears are mapped. It's got a couple of other options. Oh, and you can also go into individual, which is almost a little redundant, because if you don't find the settings you want in economy, comfort, sport and Sport Plus, then you can set the individual mode, which of course allows you really just to change whether or not the air conditioning is set to economy mode or not. Other than that, you know, what I've found driving this car is how surprised I have been with the handling and the agility of this car. I was lucky enough to drive a 328 last week, which was great because that is the direct competitor to this car, and I jumped at the chance just to take it for a quick spin so that when I drove this car I could compare it. And I can say without doubt that I prefer the new C300 here. And the reason for that is, you know, while the 328 is a pretty sporty little saloon and it's got almost exactly the same power, and you know, it's a pretty nice car to drive. Obviously this car has got a better interior, but more importantly, this car's giving me a little more feedback in the steering. I can feel when the road surfaces change in the steering, and also the brakes. I'm loving the brakes in this car. They've got a very progressive feel to them. You know, I'm never having to stab on the brakes. You know, I can just gently press on them and know exactly what the car's going to do. You know, most modern cars have got great brakes, but yeah, I'm really loving the brakes in this C300. So yeah, other than that, what else can we talk about? Well, we're taking it for a drive, and now I'm in heavy traffic, so we're not going to be zipping through a lot of, we're not going to be doing a lot of speedy driving. The other things I guess we could talk about are what comes up on the display here while we're driving, and we can have it showing the fuel consumption. And BMW does has the same graph where when you're accelerating, it shows how much fuel you're using, but when you take your foot off the gas, it goes into this charge mode. So the car's alternator isn't drawing power from the motor unless you are coasting or trying to slow down, which is a way of saving fuel and I guess saving wear on the car to a certain extent as well. In BMW it's called the efficient dynamics, but I believe Mercedes are doing exactly the same thing here. But yeah, overall I'm very impressed with how this car drives. You know, as I said, you know, loving the steering and the brakes, loving the agility of the car. Even though this car doesn't have the Airmatic suspension, the standard suspension setup is very comfortable and yet quite sporty. Okay, next, here we are on some slightly more curvy back roads, some lumps and stuff, so you can get a better feel for, as I said before, the agility of the car. And I want to talk a little bit about the gearbox in this car as well, which I'm loving. We'll pop over this hill. There's a lot of snow on the road, so I've got to be a little bit careful. I don't want to bump a car that suddenly comes around the corner and you know, this is someone else's car. Anyway, you're starting to get the feel for how nice this car is to drive, and that, you know, the steering is light and responsive. It's such a fun car to drive. And the gearbox, you know, as I've said in some previous reviews, these modern automatics are so responsive. I drop it into manual mode, you know, it drops down the gear so quickly, responds very similar to a dual clutch automatic, which really impresses me. So of course this car is the four-wheel drive model, which gives it a little bit more takeoff in these icy conditions. Of course it doesn't stop it any faster. I think some people have that misconception that a four-wheel drive somehow stops their car faster than a two-wheel drive, but no, of course you're still going to be wary of icy conditions and being able to stop in time. But yeah, really love driving this car, particularly on these back roads, you know, where I can zip around a few corners. It's very agile, a lot of fun driving this car. Okay, let's stop up here and we'll take a look around the outside of the car. You know, this car has got gets a lot of its styling cues from the S-Class, I think, which is fine. The S-Class is a handsome looking car. You know, the looks of a car is always subjective. Some people love them, some people don't. I love the front of this car more than I like the back, although I'm getting used to the back more and more. It's got quite a long bonnet. This car's got the 17-inch wheels, I think, on it, and it's in the black. You know, it's a good-looking modern car from the outside. Okay, let's have a look around the inside. I'm excited to take a look in the inside because having driven this car a little bit, I am really impressed with the interior. It's a top-notch interior. But before we get on to the interior, I wanted to talk to you about some of the standard features that come with this car. Really impressive list of standard features. Even if you pick no options, this car comes with some great standard features. First being that it's got the 14-way seats. It has the dual climate control, so adjustable climate temperature for both sides. Has folding mirrors. It has the dual screens, the high resolution screens. In this case, it's got the 6.5 inch. You can also upgrade to an 8.5 inch screen. The touchpad controller, the Bluetooth, the HD radio, the 7-speed automatic. And then it's got a whole raft of standard safety features that you don't get on a lot of cars, perhaps any other cars, this many safety features. The first one being collision prevention. It's got a bunch of sensors around the car that if it detects that you're going to have a collision, whether it's a stationary object or a moving object, it starts to pre-brake for you, it gives you a warning, it gets your car ready for a collision, it does everything to prevent you from having that accident. It also has adaptive braking, which moves the pads closer to the discs and pre-energizes the brake cylinders so that you can brake as quickly as possible. And how it does that is it notices if you suddenly take your foot off the accelerator, or if it detects there's a collision coming, it does all that so that you can brake the maximum amount immediately, which is such a cool feature. It has a feature called pre-safe, which, once again, if it's detecting that there's going to be an accident or it's concerned that there's going to be an accident, it tightens your seatbelt, it closes the windows and the sunroof. It basically sets the car up for maximum rigidity when you have the accident. So it's trying to protect its occupants when it has that accident, which is pretty cool. And finally, it has attention assist, and what that is, apparently there's 70 sensors. I don't know what they all are, but really they're looking for drowsy drivers or drivers that have been driving too long, and if it detects that you are in some way starting to fall asleep, it makes all these noises and it buzzes and it carries on to wake you up and suggest that you take a break. So those are some great safety features that just come standard on all C-classes now, which is awesome. This particular car has got a few other nice options. It's got the $2,000 four-wheel drive, which is a lot of people here in the Northeast would get. And it's got the premium package, which is a great package I think most people would get, which gives you the LED headlights, the Burmeister sound, which we'll get to in a moment, the Sirius satellite radio, keyless go, which means that you can get in and out of the car without having to unlock it. It just unlocks itself. And it's also got the $1,400 panoramic sunroof, which is an enormous sunroof, which is actually two parts, and as you can see, it's just this massive sunroof. Pretty cool. So those are some great options on this car. Some other options that people might get, certainly there's some more safety features. You could get, there's even more driver assistance features like cross path warning when it sees a car coming from the distance. This car comes standard with the lane assist, but you can also get other driver assistance, something called Pre-Safe Plus, and BAS Plus and Distronic Plus, which are all more safety features and all about detecting other cars and where they are and warning you and keeping you in lanes and slowing you down if traffic ahead of you, slowing down, all those types of things. So there's a lot of great driver assistance packages, and they cost about $2,800. Another package that I would get if I was buying this car would be the Airmatic suspension, which controls the dampening. That's quite a bargain at only $1,200. There's a bigger navigation system, the 8.4-inch screen. It comes with a hard drive, voice control, 10 gigs of storage, 3 years of navigation updates, and weather and all that type of stuff, and that's $2,600. And of course the leather. This comes standard with what Mercedes call text leather, which is leatherette or fake leather, which is pretty nice for fake leather actually. And you can get real leather for $2,300. So anyway, let's have a look around the car from left to right, and we'll talk a little bit about the features as we go along. So the first thing I want to talk about is the switchgear. Wow, the switchgear in this car is outstanding. It reminds me of the switchgear that I felt in a Rolls-Royce, believe it or not. They're aluminium switches, and what I really love about them is the feel of them. When you pull up, it's just the lovely click that they have, the texture and I don't know, it's just the switchgear is top notch, the nicest switchgear I've seen in a car for a long time. And that flows throughout the car, whether it's the seat controls or even the speakers have got this lovely aluminium feel to them. This car, of course, has got the 14-way seats at the front, which means that you can adjust 14 different ways, even the height of the seat headrest, and the bolsters can be moved forward and back. And of course it's got a memory package as well. As I said before, the premium package comes with the Burmeister, I think I'm saying that right, Burmeister sound, and you might say, wow, what a bargain. If you're buying the premium package, it's only $2,000 and it comes with Burmeister. Isn't the Burmeister like $5,000 in a Porsche? And that's true. If you buy Burmeister in a Porsche, you're paying over $5,000 for it. So it's a bargain in this car, although it's not the same. It's a nice stereo, and it's got a decent amount of sound. When I turned it right up, it doesn't quite have the bass that you'd get in other more expensive Burmeister setups. So it obviously doesn't have the subwoofers that you get in the more expensive setups, but it's still a very crystal clear, lovely sound that comes from it. Moving across to the steering wheel. The steering wheel is really nice. The leather's soft, it's got the perforations here, and it's got the smooth leather up there. It's just the way I like it. The buttons have got a nice feel to them. The only thing I would note about the buttons is one oddity, which is that with the radio you can turn the sound up and down and you can mute the sound, but you can't change the track. There's no way in changing the station or the track, which I would argue is the most common use of the buttons on a steering wheel, is changing what song you're listening to or what radio station you're listening to. I would use that button more often than any other button on a steering wheel. And maybe there's a way of doing it, but I can't figure it out in this car. It just doesn't seem to have that function. You can hang up the phone and you can turn on the voice commands, and you can change the display in the central console. But other than that, I can't figure out how you'd change the radio station or the track, which is strange. There's the little paddles for shifting the gears. And of course, this being a Mercedes, there's always going to be some form of control weirdness. And what I mean by that is they do things just a little differently. It's not a bad thing, but it takes a little bit of getting used to. And the first one is common to Mercedes in that the gear shifter is here on the it's a stalk on the column. And so to get it into drive, you push it down. To get it into reverse, you push it up. And to put it into park, you press the button on the end, which is fine, and you get used to that very quickly. And it's a nice, easy way to change between drive and park and reverse. But the downside of having this stalk on the column is that normally that's where you'd put the wiper controls. And so on the Mercedes, they incorporate the wiper controls and the headlights all on one stalk. So it's up and down for indicators, and then the lights forward and back like this. Auto lights down here, but for the high beams it's up and down. And then for the wipers, you turn the control, and if you want a single wipe, you press the button, or if you want the washers to come on, you push it down hard to the second click and the washers come on. And that works pretty well. What doesn't work so well is where the cruise control switches. So most of the time when you're driving on the highway, the wheel's about here. And when the wheel's there, it's blocking the stalk for the cruise control, which is hidden under here. So you've really got to learn what the different movements on this little stalk are before you go driving, because you'll never see it when you're driving. It's hidden away behind there. And there's another little stalk for adjusting the steering wheel back there. As for the screen on the dash, this little high resolution screen, it's a very pretty screen and it does a bunch of things. Obviously it's got a trip computer, which it's on now. It can show the speed that you're doing. Hang on, let me zoom in a little bit. There we go. You show the speed, shows your distance traveled, shows the fuel consumption. As I said, when I was driving the car, it also shows when it's charging the batteries, the economy display, and back to the trip computer. Into the center console, you've got the lovely aluminium feel vents, which have got a lovely switch feel to them, a lovely movement to them. It's really, really a lovely car, this. Here's the HVAC controls. Once again, the switches are aluminium touch and they've got a great feel to them. And what's interesting about this car is down here, you start getting the duplication of the controls. And what I mean by that is, you know, there's more than one way to do everything in this car. So down here, you could use these to go to your navigation, your radio, your inbuilt media, and your telephone, and your car settings. But you can also do that, of course, with this controller in the center here. And this controller in the center here is, I guess what they've thought is everybody's moving to touch controllers, so we've got to do that. But then a lot of people like the tactile feel of a switch, so how about we incorporate both? And so that's what they've tried to do here, I think. They've got a touch controller on the top, and then they've got the turn controller, which can be pushed down and moved side to side and so forth. And these two duplicate the functions of each other. So depending on which you prefer to use, you can do everything on either or a combination of the both. Me personally, I still like the feel of a switch, click, 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 move, move. Whereas the touch is more imprecise. You know, you've got to get the swipe just right to go where you want to go. But I guess it works fine. It looks a little awkward having both of them there in my mind, but yeah, it works fine. And of course, you've got the switch for the agility control, which is, you know, in this car, just changing the throttle response and the gear switching. A volume button, and of course the start stop for the engine. Moving across, you've got a glove box, which has only got a small amount of room in it, really. And the seat controls for the passenger seat and the passenger's seat. Some people have mentioned that they don't like the plastic on the center console here. They feel that it takes away from some of the leather feel of this car, but I quite like it. It's a lovely high quality bit of plastic, and you can have it in the piano black or the various other trims that this car comes in. I think overall it looks really nice. I mean, the car itself is really a superb interior. It really is. It's one of my favorite bits. Up on the top here is this 6-inch screen, which is a little controversial. People have been a little unkind about it, because I guess part of the problem is that while it's a clear screen and it's high resolution, it does a great job, it kind of looks out of place in this car. I think you get used to it quite quickly. But when you first sit down, you think, oh, maybe I can swivel this screen towards me, but of course you can't. It stays where it is, and it just doesn't look that modern because there's such a big frame around it. As we're getting used to iPads, which are getting smaller, and phones with smaller and smaller frames, this has got an enormous big black frame. You wonder why they couldn't have just shrunk this frame down. But you know, it's no big deal. I think people worry about these things more than they should, and we'd all get used to having these sort of popped up screens in all our cars sooner or later. Okay, if I jump in the rear seat now with my partner in crime, William, well, there's decent amount of leg room back here, but headroom not there's not quite enough headroom, unless I put my head where the sunroof is here. There's not quite enough headroom for a person my height, which is 6 foot tall. But a little bit shorter you'd be fine. But otherwise the back seats are comfortable. Once again, the beautiful aluminium speakers flow through, and the aluminium switch gear. Such a beautiful interior this car has got, just top notch. And of course you've got a couple of vents, and hidden away down here you've got a 12 volt outlet as well. The back seats also have these little cute little fold away document storage areas as well, which are quite neat. So yeah, nice rear seats in this car. So if we whip around to the back and have a look in the trunk, or open it up, and there's William in the back showing you the sort of depth of the trunk. It's not the deepest trunk in the world, but it's quite long, quite spacious. You can fit some pretty big bags in there. I think you could fit 4 medium-sized stuffed gorillas in there, no problem at all. Okay, I just wanted to stop here and talk quickly about the two most direct competitors to the C-Class, and I think you'd agree that is the BMW 3 Series and the Audi A4. Obviously all the other luxury brands also compete in this price and size, but yeah, I think the Audi and the BMW are the most direct competitors. Obviously they're also German, and these three brands watch each other very closely. And I think I've always felt that you get more value for money out of the BMW and the Audis in the past. Yeah, the previous models, C-Class, have been very stripped down, and to add options has costed a great deal. But this time it's different. I think this time they're pricing the C-Class to be a lot more competitive with those other two brands. And I'll show you what I mean. Well, if you take the base model, C300, that's $38,400, and the base model 3 Series in the same engine size, which is $37,500, and the base model A4, which is $35,500, it still looks like the Mercedes is the more expensive, but that's not telling the whole story. If I price up the C-Class,
if I configure the car in the way that the car that I'm driving today is configured, that is with the premium package, the moonroof,
and all the other bits and pieces we've talked about, this car comes in around $45,000.
Slightly better.
If I then do the same with the 328, that is, I make it a 328X, so it's a 4-wheel drive, and I put a premium package on it, and I put all the same options that this car has on it, then it comes out at $47,900. So $3,000 more than this C-Class. Then if I do the same with the A4, which is always the cheapest within the range normally, and I do the same thing, I configure it as close as I can. It's not exact, but as close as I can to the C-Class that I'm driving today. Then it comes out at a surprising $45,100. And of course, keep in mind that the Audi is slightly less powerful as well, at 220 horsepower. So this really surprises me, is that I think for the first time, when configured the same, you're getting a C-Class for much the same money, or even less than its direct competitors. And I certainly think that's interesting. I certainly think that's really going to help sell the C-Class, particularly keeping in mind that you're not losing out on anything else. This is a quality vehicle. So yeah, very interesting that the pricing now is so close between these competitors. Okay, so what are my conclusions with this new C-Class? Well, I'm pretty blown away, to be honest. I really love it. Obviously I think the interior is best in class at the moment, and as I said before, value for money, it's pretty good. It's amazing for a Mercedes to be, equal or even better than some of its competitors on price. So it's a really nice package. It's a lovely car to drive. It's such a lovely car inside. It's a pretty good looking car on the outside. I really don't have that many complaints. But to list out my favorite bits, well, once again, interior quality, best in class. It's one of the top bits. The steering, the ride, the braking, also close to best in class, if not best in class. It seems to be no more expensive than the other Germans, as I said before, perhaps even cheaper in some cases. and many great safety features come standard in this car. I'm really impressed with how many safety features that have trickled down from the S-Class to this class so quickly really make this a compelling car to buy. If I was to pick out some complaints about the car, I really don't have many. They're kind of stupid complaints. The first one is the color choices are a little drab. The color choices you can get this car in are 10 to choose from. There's sort of a silver, a blue, a dark blue, or a silver blue, a dark blue, a white grey, a slightly more white grey, a black, another black, a grey, a silver grey, and a light grey. Oh, and a brown. So if you like different shades of grey, you'll definitely be happy with the colours that this car comes in. But if you're looking for anything other than grey or brown, you might be a little disappointed. Oh, there is a blue, but yeah, there's no reds or greens or any other interesting colours. So that's a little bit of a gripe. I'm sure they'll fix that. The colours are fine. It's just there's no exciting colours. And of course, and this really isn't a gripe for Mercedes, is a gripe for German cars in particular, that is that the package costs can drive up the price quite quickly. But as I said before, the package costs in this car are no more than the other German cars. So yeah, I love this car. I give this car a huge thumbs up. I've really enjoyed driving it this last couple of days, and if I was looking for a car in the $40,000 bracket, I'd certainly be pretty tempted to get this one. So anyone out there looking for a C-Class, yeah, I would strongly recommend one. This new generation is just fantastic. Anyway, thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this video. Sorry if it was a little long, but I wanted to get some of the details that other reviewers hadn't got on this review. If you've got any questions, either send me an email or put them in the comments below. And as I've said before, if you live somewhere in New England and if you've got a cool car you think I should drive, send me an email. Anyway, thanks for watching, everyone. I'll see you in my next video next week. So I'm always trying to improve my videos. You know, my videos are always going to be amateur videos, but I want them to be good amateur videos. And so I'm always trying different techniques and looking at other people's videos and seeing what works and what doesn't work and trying things in my videos. And if it doesn't work, I drop it. If it does work, I incorporate it into future videos. And I think every video I try something new. And this video, the new thing is I've got a new slider that it's not just a slider, it's a motorized slider that can also change the angle of the camera as the camera moves. So it gives a lovely sort of an effect that you can swivel around objects with it. And of course I'm incorporating my new C300 Mark II camera and some of the lenses I've got, and that's giving very nice results, and you would have seen them in this review, some of the lovely panning shots that I got from that camera. So I'm still learning how to use it, I'm still learning how to get the most out of it, and hopefully you'll see more shots from this setup in the future. But I thought I'd just show it to you now because a lot of people write to me interested in how I make these videos, and at some point I'll make a full-length video on all the techniques I use, but because I'm an amateur and my videos are still amateurish, I'm a bit reluctant to do that until they're up in quality a little bit more. But I did want to show you this. So this is the camera in action, and I've got William down here, and he runs the controller for me sometimes. So the controller just moves the camera back and forth, and the camera swivels on its axis as it's moving, and it gives a lovely smooth pan because it's motorized. So yeah, I thought you'd be interested to see how I did those shots. I'll certainly do more how I make my videos in the future.